They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Oh yeah, just starting off the episode with a sip of energy. We should be sponsored by one day by them, but alas, today joined with me is my fellow shaved head brother in arms.
Hello friends, I'm Nick Kay, and as always we have the effervescent Josh Nabido. Say hi, Josh.
What is up, guys? This is the Magic Guys podcast where we introduce you to wonderful guests. That was a weird way to start. Let me bring that back.
Struggling since before the show. He hasn't been able to find his words at all. We got to do some like red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather.
I think I'm just fangirling over our guest. That's what it is. I can't hold it together, and I'm trying my best. But I'm excited, and thank you for joining us live in this episode. I think Doug is in the chat as well. He's had a long week, which I'm excited to hear about what he's been up to next week to do with trick supply and things like that. So he is enjoying some lovely time with his wife. What a flex. He's a magician and has a wife. I mean, the man has it all, right? But Nick, how have you been in this last week, my friend?
It's been a great week, friends. I spent the weekend up on your side of the planet, and Josh Nabido and I got to hang out in person, which is a rarity for us. We got to chat magic and share ideas as we were performing on two opposite ends of the Theatre of Magic, which went really, really well. I was in Toowoomba. You were in Brisbane, so we're a couple of hours away whilst performing, but a great time. The Theatre of Magic is absolutely wonderful. If you are on that side of the planet, please go scope out some shows and see the amazing Josh Nabido as well as other amazing talents perform. Who were you performing alongside that weekend? Were you with Sean Murgard?
I was a bit spoiled. I got to perform next to Mike Tyler, and then in the second show, Sean Murgard. Just
amazing.
Brilliance. Some great stuff.
Yeah.
And what's really fun is seeing the performers come back again, and then like they've worked on their routines, and so we get to watch like little iterations improve in our sets. And last week was a great example of that.
Yeah,
so much fun.
Yeah, and more importantly, we'll probably touch upon that next week, but we also want to thank you guys who are here in the chat live. So, of course, if you are listening live, you have the ability to send your questions through. Drop us a line because you can ask Dennis Kim any questions you might have. So big thank you for joining us, Mr. Thomas Conger. We have May Marino. We have my good friend Gary Davis. Hope you're in good health, friend. Good to see you here. Drago Tier, Scotty Link, Tim Askin, up them questions, and Alex Lamb. Good to see you, buddy. Oh, Gutbuster Mike, who we had an awesome jam session on our Discord last week. Alex Lamb is asking me, are you coming up for Eric's lecture? Alex, I will not. Reason being is that Eric Leclerc is actually going to be down here in Melbourne as part of the Melbourne Magic Festival, which starts on Saturday. So he and I will be running amok. I'm not even sure if I can see his lecture due to performances that I'll be doing over the weekend. So we will see how that goes. And of course, we have Herbert. Thank you for joining us, friends, to be part of what's going to be a very interesting interview. We've already had an amazing chat backstage before it begins. But before we begin, Josh?
I just want to say Eric Leclerc, Alex is in Brisbane, so he's going to be at the lecture. I can't believe this as well. Eric is coming to Brisbane, and on the one Thursday of that month that he's lecturing, I'm doing a theatre show with Showman. I can't. Where's my? I
can't believe it.
It is absolute is what it is. And so I'm going to miss his lecture, but luckily through the podcast, Eric and I are friends. He's been on the podcast twice. So we got chatting and we're like, you know what? Why don't we just catch up the next day and let's do a show. So Eric, for one night, 2 shows on one night on the 18th of July, if you're in Brisbane, he's going to be doing his show at the Theatre of Magic. So I'll be opening, he'll be doing his main show. It's going to be so goddamn good. Like potentially it's more valuable than the lecture because you're seeing the real world stuff and how he handles an actual audience, you know? I say that to make myself feel better. I obviously go to the lecture because you can learn and buy stuff from him. But yeah, it's going to be heaps of fun.
Well, yeah, speaking of, look, our person we're about to introduce, folks, he has some things he's going to share from his lecture today, as well as his journey going through FISM. For those of you that don't know, he is currently in the running to win FISM's online performance watch. I was chatting to him, totally fanboying as we do, saying that I think it's one of the best pieces of social media magic I have ever seen. Let's just get him on the show. We're all dying to ask him questions. We're all dying to meet this handsome creature. Friends, please join us in welcoming the amazing Mr. Dennis Kim.
Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Dennis Kim in the house.
How's
How you
everyone?
doing, Dennis?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you guys, Josh.
We're so happy to have you back on the podcast
to be
since
back.
2 years ago.
I can't believe it's already been 2 years. Yeah. Let's be back though. It's good to hang here, huh?
It's great to have you here, man. And obviously, we all know who you are. But if you were to like synopsisize Dennis Kim, give the 5 people who've never heard of you before the lowdown.
Sure. Well, my name's Dennis. I'm out in New York. I do magic full time. I do performances. I consult as well. I work with Theory 11 on Dan White's magic shows and productions, as well as my own private events. I consult other people in New York, I guess, and all around wherever it's needed and whoever just calls me for help. And that's about it. Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's enough to keep you bloody busy from what we see.
Yeah, sometimes it's too busy for my liking, but that's work, right?
It's work. Now, and somehow amongst all of that, you had time to enter the FISM content category this year, video content creator category.
Yeah.
Before we get into your actual video, like what were your thoughts on it when you saw it announced?
Sure. I was actually pretty surprised. I was wondering, like, is this going to be a really cruel April Fool's joke? Like, deadline was originally, like a month prior from what it actually was. And I thought, for FISM to come up with like this new category for like online magic where I don't have to go in person. This year it's in Italy, to go in person and compete with like the top magicians of the whole world. This just seems like, why wouldn't you want to submit something, And I think I was really happy with it because during COVID, during the whole pandemic, all we could do is virtual magic. And I think everybody came up with so many incredible ideas for literally this kind of format. Whereas before that, it was just like social media, which was a completely different beast from what it is today. And I developed so much magic and concepts for specifically virtual magic, stuff that you cannot do in person. Just wouldn't make sense to. And it kind of felt like it went to waste once like the world kind of opened up again, and it was just kind of this awkward transition back to the reality. But seeing this was another opportunity for me to kind of showcase what I had worked on in previous years. I'm like, oh, here's, I can actually use this thing again and put something out there, So, yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I'm most in awe of when I say I genuinely mean it, that I think it's one of the best pieces of social media magic I've ever seen, because you're using these amazing forced perspectives that aren't really touched upon in many forms of magic books and whatever else. So the moment I saw that and just went, damn, that's brilliant. The first thing I thought to myself is like, where do you even learn that? Where do you even like, what material could you even go? Oh, it's not as if, okay, what I mean is that you're not looking at your routine going like, oh, that's in Tarbell, chapter 6. Like, man, like it's not like that. So my question to you, friend, is that like, where did this knowledge come from? Like, how did you go about even figuring this out? Like, it's so original and so unique.
Right. I distinctly remember when I first came up with this whole concept, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it's okay if I mention this kind of detail, but like stuff with like mirrors, with the perspective of like the camera being framed in a specific way. I remember distinctly we're at the height of the pandemic, the world just shut down and all the shows have canceled everywhere and we're all just stuck at home. And I was helping Dan with some things. Like there's an upcoming kind of a spot he was doing for Jimmy Fallon, and it was a virtual one. Like everyone was scrabbling to try to figure out what to do while we're all stuck at home, and so everything went virtual. And we're jamming in like so many ideas under this whole like time crunch, and so it was just like all day, every day, I was trying to come up with like answering the question of how do you take advantage of this thing that's otherwise perceived as a limitation, right? Because everyone's thinking, oh, like virtual magic is just not as good as live. And for the most part, that's true. You'd rather see it in person. But with that in mind, how do you now create something brand new that can only be watched and enjoyed because you're watching it on a video or on Zoom or whatever virtual format that you're on, that you're stuck with? And so I had kind of answered that question through having nothing else to do but being stuck at home and like playing around with the camera and like trying to think of like video tricks and illusions that can only really be done here. And I don't know, it just came to me that like, what if I just put like a mirror in front of the camera? That's kind of trippy. You don't see the mirror. And figuring out like how to angle things and whatnot. And we ended up not using that for the spot, but I kind of took that and ran with it. And I think we were all stuck at home for like the better part of that year back in 2020. And that was probably the only thing that kept me sane, was working on this thing with a mirror and scratching my head over like the camera angle relative to the mirror and lighting and what can you do to take advantage of the fact that you're in front of this mirror. And yeah, it just took months and months of just trial and error and like calling people on like FaceTime and trying out different tricks that take advantage of it. And fast forward to this FISM submission where I was like, well, let's use this thing again and figure it out.
So you weren't like looking up special effects in movie terms or anything like that? There wasn't any material that you were like, oh, no, I found this book called, how to make a horror movie, for example, or anything like that? You just straight up just went in there and started playing?
Yeah, no, it's there was a couple of inspirations. There was Quirkology on YouTube. He's got very old videos of all these like perception kind of things, and it's like these are really enjoyable to watch. But if you do it in person, it's like that you're not doing anything. It's because I'm watching it on video. And also there's that guy. His name's at the tip of my tongue, but he does all these really trippy videos. Albeit they're very edited, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm talking about. Like his videos are all like very trippy illusions and
like a Zach King type of guy.
Yes, Zach King. All of his videos are just so trippy, and I know that they're all edited, but it's fantastic, and it's using again the same concept of like I can only do this on video, and it's very enjoyable. So it's like, how can we take that and dial it down where I don't have to edit all these things and try to do something practical, And in fact, I actually ended up writing an ebook about the whole concept, and I never put it out because by the time I was kind of like 99% there, live gigs were coming back up again, and we're working on like the live show, and things just got busy. So, yeah.
Wow,
that's insane.
I just you know what? I appreciate even the little details, like down to the clock in the background. It's just so nice. Like you can really watch it and appreciate the art of it because like everything has a reason to be done or moved or positioned, which is just so nice.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was actually really fun. Like I was debating about, first of all, I think, this is like the first year of having this FISM online category, and I'm sure they'll have it in future years, but their rules were very vague. For those of you who are not in the know, they only had two rules, which is one, the video cannot exceed more than 90 seconds, and two, your video cannot be edited in post. Now, there were a lot of submissions that technically were edited in like adding captions and things, and evidently that's fine. But me working on this thing, I want to really make sure that I follow all the rules. And for something like this where I'm just mirrored the whole time, you could simply just flip the video and now everything looks okay, if that makes sense. Everything's reversed and then let's just flip the video thereafter. But I thought that would be against the rules, so we really went above and beyond with like the countdown on the TV, like that's reversed. We even printed out labels. I don't have the milk bottle, but I do have the Windex bottle. Like we literally printed out like a reverse image.
Holy crap!
Slapped that on, ripped off the actual one. And in the take that I submitted, I didn't even show this. So I'm like, all that work for nothing. The T-shirt was reversed. Just all these little details to kind of point at like, yeah, it's not a mirror. I mean, first of all, why would anyone think that? But just the little extra percentage points. So when I do reveal it, it's like, where's the camera? So.
Wow.
So from concept to kind of first iteration of the routine, I'm going to assume that routine was like, it's probably like, let's say like 7 or 8 generations old, like it started as this and then sort of evolved. Like what happens first, the concept or the idea, or you're like, oh, like the milk, like why the milk, like.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a good process.
For sure, and I think this is probably going to be pretty interesting for everybody watching for like your own routines and like structuring things in general for magic. I was jamming with my roommates. I live with also a magician. We've been living together for like the past 5 years. Who does magic too, so like it's already a great position to be in, like to be able to jam at any moment. And we just kind of sat around for hours, and I'm talking like late through the night. It's like 3, 4 in the morning. We're just trying to like put out any and every idea. But it first started with like, this is what I want for the video. These are the elements that I want for it, which wasn't much in the beginning. It was like, all I know is no one else is going to also be doing this thing with a mirror, because it's like I'm the only one doing that. So that has to go in. And here are all the tricks I've done because I have this mirror thing going on. And there are a number of them. I've done them in my Zoom show and when I'm FaceTime calling a bunch of people. Like, there's a lot of applications to it. So it's like, what are things I can do that don't need the interaction with the spectator? Okay, so you start narrowing it down to just a couple of applications. And then it's like, okay, these are the things I want. Here's the big question mark of like, got up to 90 seconds. What's the point? Why am I doing this? What's the effect or effects? What's the whole routine? What's the story, right? And so it's just drafting a whole bunch of different things. And then it just becomes way too late at night where now the wacky ideas are starting to come out, where I remember distinctly, like, we're just talking about like really funny ways to just start the video. And
Okay, give us an example.
Yeah, and it's like, I remember Matt, my roommate, he was like, we were like talking about milk and cereal for some reason. And it's like, it'd be really funny if like you poured yourself a bowl of cereal with like a gallon jug, no words, right? So it's like intriguing, like, what's he doing, right? And then you just take a swig off the entire gallon and then put it down. It's like, that would be just so like, who does that, It'd be kind of funny. So we started trying to go down like the comedy route of it. And then that evolved to like, okay, we got to do something with milk and cereal now, because we were like bouncing ideas off of like trying to do like card tricks, that like heavily gimmicked stuff, maybe some coin stuff. I'm not the most well versed with coin magic, so it's like, here are a number of things I can do. But cards felt like, okay, like almost everyone can do cards. Like, how do we do something different? So milk and cereal, what can you do with that, right? Pour yourself a glass of milk, have cereal, make cereal appear, disappear, make the spoon vanish. We're trying to figure out how to make the spoon appear and vanish, and that didn't work out. And next thing you know, we have like a video that's going to be 4 minutes long, because we have so many ideas. Like, oh, we could do that. We could do this and that. And here are the methods. And it's like, okay, now we got to pick and choose. So you end up jamming so much that you have a video that's going to be way too long. And now you got to go through this heartbreaking moment of like, these are great ideas, but it doesn't cut it, because there are some ideas where it's like, we have to have that in. And one of those things being the table not being the table anymore, where we're looking at the screen from far, far away. And actually, if I could show some behind the scenes photos, if I may.
We would love to.
Yeah.
Them together here. I don't know if you can see this very clearly, but that's what it looks like behind the scenes. These are just a couple of photos, where on the right side you see that's the table with like a bag. And then on the floor on the left photo, that's like, we took fabric, like duvetine fabric, and we cut it to size. We were like measuring everything, and it turns out everything was like 1-to-1 with just like relatively with the table, and we're lining everything up with the camera frame. And yeah, that's my roommate Matt there, just working all the measurements and everything, because we were looking at the screen far away. I think it's in here. We had this like little iPad screen off to the side. It's very small in the photo on the left, but on the left of the mirror, we're looking at it from the couches while we're like just completely magicked out. And I looked at the framing of the table, which is like all this black art stuff. And I'm like, dude, you know what that looks like from far away? That looks kind of like a rug. So then we looked at each other and we were like, no, we can't do that. It's like, no, let's think about this. Now that would be an amazing finish, because the mirror used to be the ending where it's like, haha, I'm in front of a mirror. Holy shit. Like, how are you going to expect that, right? But how do we take it a step further? Because at that point, there were a lot of magicians that knew I'd do this mirror thing virtually. And so I was like, I got it. The moment I reveal the mirror, I'm in front of the table, just wiping the mirror. You pull the table, and it's replaced with what's behind me, which is this carpet thing. And everything looks 1-to-1. Why would you expect that to be anything else? And then just walk backwards. And we thought that just fit the bill of like, you can't do that. that's virtual, so it'll be a great ending. So yeah.
Bro, like the moment I saw the tape, like I had to watch it a second time just to be like, hang on, I didn't watch that properly. What just happened? And you watch it again and you're like, oh my God. I mean, you still don't understand. Like, because I think also what plays so well in this is that no one expects you to print out a reversible Windex sticker, you know, or make a freaking rug table in the perspective. Like that's a real superpower that you'll go to such lengths to make what ends up being, you know, a less than 90-second video. Wow. When you made it, like the first time you guys like watched it back.
Yeah.
Because first of all, if there's no editing, so you're able to film it and literally like watch it back instantly, I imagine.
Yes, that's correct.
So I guess first of all, like, did you have to do like how many iterations did you have to do filming it to like be happy with it? Because obviously you might change the routing around a bit and
Absolutely. Yeah, we dedicated one specific day. I remember I was so glad that they had extended the submission deadline by a month, because we set a date for like 2 days before the deadline. I think it was like the beginning of April was like the deadline. And I'm like, dude, it's like March 28th. Like, we got to film this like today. I don't care how long it takes. We stay up all night, whatever. But we also had shows on that weekend. He also works on the shows with Dan. So we work together on the weekends. And so it's like, well, we literally have just one day to do this thing. And then they extended the deadline. So we're like, thank God, because it was apparent we were not ready. There are so many more question marks. We're trying to make the spoon appear and everything with the cereal. And then we delayed it by a week. We thought, you know what, if we have an extra month, might as well not feel like we're pressed for time and just film what we had in mind. Like a few days later, let's actually sit on this idea for another week or 2 weeks, because we have time. And let's figure out the methods, let's refine it, all the moments. Let's re-script like what you're going to be saying. And then we dedicated this one day, like a week later, to film. We took like hours and hours, and we're on like OBS, like he's looking at it, so I'm making sure that I'm not flashing or anything. And I'm like filming stuff, like takes, and he would stop me like in the middle of a take if I flashed. And I think it was like 50, 60, 70 takes. I'm starting to get frustrated because everything just needs to look perfect, right? That's what makes Magic difficult for video. Like, you can't flash. And eventually we got a take where we're like, that might be it. That might be the it. And so I shared it with a few people, got their thoughts about it. And it was like this feeling of like, you know what, like we can do better, or we're going to need to dedicate another day. And we have time for it, but I was already tired of like, I want to get this thing over with. We had worked on it since the beginning, like mid-February maybe, through to March and everything. And then we just dedicated another day where it took another almost 100 takes. It was probably like 3:30 in the morning by that point.
wow.
And we finally looked over this take and we're like, is that it? There's no flashing? You know, because there were some takes where we're like, that looks good. And we look at it again, it's like, yeah, you flashed in this one thing. We missed that. We'd have to redo it. But we finally got this take. It's like, no, we watched it like 20 times in a row. We put it on different devices like iPads, on the computer, on your phone, to see if there's anything you might see that we missed from just seeing it from one screen. I don't know. And we got this take finally. And it probably was like 150 takes in, I think.
Wow. That must have been the cleanest mirror in New York by the end.
A lot of Windex. I mean, this bottle was full, man. I mean, the Windex. That's. But yeah, that's what makes it difficult, though, right? About Magic on video. If you flash even in one frame versus in-person Magic, you see in-person Magic once. Even if you flash, people might not catch it, but people can watch the video over and over and over until they finally see a thing and they comment, "Oh, it's so obvious," and whatever.
It's like a blessing and a curse. You have the ability to re-record it as many times as you want, but then that also means you might get stuck in the it's never perfect.
Yeah.
And forever filming or not putting stuff out. It is, and sometimes, you know, with because I try and put out stuff every day, or just every day. Every time I have a video that I'm like happy to, like I'm like, oh, I like this, I'm gonna put it out there. I learned this from my buddy Jason Ma, that sometimes you just have to let that feeling go a little bit, where you're not trying to hit 100% clean. Like like 99.9% is okay for a line as well. Obviously, when it comes to FISM, it's got to be, you want 100%, but you don't want to get too stuck in that and like that fear perception of like, oh, it's never good enough to put out online. Like if magicians listening to this are like, I want to share a piece from my show or something, don't feel like, you know, because it's a little bit imperfect, you can't put it out. Sometimes that will actually be more endearing, you know, to learn about the performer.
And it's tough too, because as you continue to film this thing and work on this idea, you become so jaded by it that it's not amazing to you anymore. You're so familiar with it. You work on it for so long that it's like, dude, is this even good? You start to trip yourself up. Whereas like people watching it, they've never seen this before, you know? So that's a good thing to keep in mind.
You know, it's so true. And the weird thing is that like it needs to get to a point where it doesn't evoke any sort of like adrenaline, like in the adrenaline rush that you get from like stealing a watch, for example. You know what I mean? Like you don't want that energy anymore. You don't want that nervous energy and that relief of achieving something anymore. Like when you have something that's as intricate as a FISM act, you want to be able to do it with like next to like, what do you feel? Nothing. I'm dead inside, which sounds sad, but it's also so essential to be able to execute it so that the people watching can enjoy it to its fullest. Isn't that the weirdest dichotomy?
Yeah, it can be very draining, but that's performance art, right? That's probably applies to any performance art, not just magic. So
Yeah.
Look, we look forward to seeing you win FISM for that category. I mean, the top 20 are all fantastic videos. It's just that I can't stop watching Dennis's. So I've got to think that is a good sign. And I'm glad we got the pre-interview before that all happens. And you're
we shall see,
available.
guys. It's 3 weeks from now will be when FISM starts, about 2 weeks or so, and then the results will come out in a few weeks. So we shall.
Yeah, I mean, we're in there with you. Like we're, you know, fingers crossed. We're only against 4 other people, but our podcast is amongst the honorable mentions of like Magic Podcast in that category. But we're all sort of eagerly waiting to see the results, and then like, what do the results mean? You know,
Right. We shall see.
In the real world. But yeah, so I could talk about this all hour. But was there any other notes you wanted to add about your FISM video?
No, I think that's about it, unless anyone in the chat has questions. Otherwise, yeah, we can totally move on, talk about it.
Well, I have a question just with regards to creating a routine of this ilk. Whenever someone writes a show, you know, like they say, I'm writing a show, it's going to be called, I don't know, it's going to be called like Green. And then you do this whole show called Green, and then you finish your tour, you finish your run, and then you're like, oh, I'm already writing the next show in my head. Is it the same sort of process, or do you have the same mindset or drive to do it again with a FISM act? Or are you kind of like, I'm glad this is done, I need a break?
I'm sure the answer to that question will be different, varying between people, individual to individual. But for me personally, I think with the kind of work that I do, there's a lot of different projects that I'm called for month to month, whether it's private gigs here and there, to somebody wants help on their show, or something they're doing for like media or TV or something. That it's just so different that for me personally, I'm kind of just glad. I'm just kind of relieved. And there's this feeling of like, okay, like, you know, once in a while I should be working on something a little bit different from like the usual. And for that period of time, it was this FISM thing. Like, I've never done that before. This has never been a thing before. And so to be able to finish it in the first place, I remember telling myself, like, I'll just be happy if I made the top 20. Like, this is, I think, the best work that I could have put out. I couldn't do any better than that. And I'm proud of myself for that. And let's just move on to the next thing. And even if it's not something that's about me, then if I'm working on somebody else's thing, whatever, that's what it means to be a consultant. And let's see what the next project is, you know? So that's me personally.
You know, when you create for so many other people, I'm curious what happens to that intellectual piece of property that you produce. Are you permitted to keep it for yourself, or does it become the property of the person you're creating for?
That's a fantastic question. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't consider for being a consultant. You know, I've worked with with Dan White for a number of years. I've worked with him the longest. It's been about already 6 years and change now, which is so long. And he put it really well one day when he said, it's like you're consulting somebody and really understand like their brain and magic and where they want to go and like the do's and don'ts that they want to see, like attributes in their magic. And you start to work on someone else's thing where you have an answer in your head because you've worked on a very similar problem for this other person, but now you're working on this thing with someone else. It's like to share that exact same answer. Like, yes, that would probably solve it, but it's almost like you're kind of cheating. It's like you're cheating on a relationship a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he told me this like early on, like in the pandemic, like I was at his place, we're doing so many Zoom shows and we're working out together and chatting so much. But as like the world opened up again and now like I'm involved in like projects with other people, and even if it's like informally, it's not like formal work, just like magic friends who have questions. Immediately in my head, like I have answers to most of their questions, but it's like, if I disclose this, then that is like cheating because this is stuff that's supposed to be well guarded with the work I've done with like, say, Dan, and it's like, it wouldn't be right for me to disclose this stuff. And so it starts to get a little muddy as it's like a second or third or even fourth person who asks very similar questions. And now it's like, I have to compartmentalize, like, these are the answers that would solve your problem, but I cannot disclose these things because that's just how it goes. I'm going to protect the secrets that I've worked on with person A, and I cannot disclose to person B or C or D, and same with person B to C, and so on and so forth. So it gets a little tough. I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, it kind of does. But well, what I'm curious about is that I love that between each party's ABC that you won't bleed the information between them. But when you're doing your own performances, are you permitted to take your ideas that you've cultivated between all of the letters of the alphabet? Are you permitted to do for yourself? Right.
Yeah, that's been a tough journey for me because there are some effects I've worked on for these people, right? And I think the correct answer would be that the stuff that you work on for somebody else who's performing, it's kind of their material. But I think it gets a little bit more in like a gray area where, like, let's say I feel really guilty about doing a certain routine, or my own brain for my own material is directly influenced by the work I've done for somebody else. And it's like, am I just going to scratch that for like a private event I'm doing, And so for me, I realized that doing certain routines that I am capable of doing, that I've also worked on for somebody else, if I do it for like a private event or something, I don't see where the harm is in that. If anything, it gives me firsthand experience to now give notes, because every time I'm sure you guys too, like when you perform and you think about the gig you just did, like you have plenty of notes to improve the routines you've done. And so if I have firsthand experience in the routine that I've been helping someone else with, then I have notes of my own that I can then share with that person. I think the area falls where it's like, this is a private event with like, it's like a birthday party or a wedding or something, and it's all these lay people. If it's something that's like television, where it's like, oh, like Dennis is coming on to this like big spot that's like publicized, that's where it gets a little hairy, and I think that's a line that I would rather not cross because it just doesn't feel right. But if it's something that's private, it's like, well, who's stopping me, and how is this gonna just crossing over that boundary, So yeah.
What I'm also curious about is that speaking from experience, like I help a lot of my friends, and it's because we're friends and I know them and I know their style, and I think to myself, if you're going to do it like this, you got to do it this way. A lot of times when I'm jamming other people, and this happened even most recently, I was doing an effect like a coins through table, and a friend of mine who I adore kept saying like repeatedly, like, I wouldn't do that routine, I wouldn't do a coins through table, I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't do it. And I was like, you said that, but I've come to you to help me improve it. And all you're saying in return is, I wouldn't do that. And so it's very interesting because this is what I receive most common when I do have people who want to help me. They want me to do it the way they did. They want me to do what they would do. And I think that's one of the most unhealthy things to do if you are going to be a consultant in any capacity. So my question with regards to that is, how do you get to know the performer and understand them so that you know that the advice you're giving them is appropriate for what and how they're supposed to be performing?
That's a great question. You're asking great questions, Nick. There's a process, especially working with someone new that I have yet to work with.
Yeah. So, you know what? Let's frame it. Let's work with me.
Okay.
Right. Like, what would the process look like?
Well, I want to do my research on you. I want to watch all your content. I want to watch all of your performances. I want to see the things that you tend to do. I want to see the lines that you kind of say in the offbeat moments that make you, and it's your performance. And I want to see the 1,000th timers, the routines that you're really honed in on, and then the new material that you've been working on. We have this conversation, and I would just want to watch a lot of your material and then just jam with you on like where your head is at for a certain problem. And I would never it's never the answer to be like, I wouldn't do that, because first of all, that's like the worst thing. Whoever has said that to you, like, I don't know, that's because I'm not you and you're not me and we'll never be each other. It's just weird, right? I need to get into your brain. I need to see what you excel at, and I need to see the things that that are also shortcomings for you. It's not personal. It's business, but it's not personal, right? We all have our strong suits. And so taking that into account, then we make accommodations. Like maybe there are limitations to the methods because your sleight of hand is not good enough with the certain props that we're working with. So now we got to go down a gimmick solution. You see what I'm saying, right?
100%.
I will always work with you and what you can do, what you excel at, what your limitations are, and figure out methods. Because having done this for a long time, there's always a way. There are always workarounds. And if you really do find yourself at like a hard stop, a dead end, we can always reroute and restructure the routine. And maybe we have to change the plot a little bit, but it's like, it's never going to be the answer of like, I wouldn't do that. That just doesn't seem to make sense. So so it all boiled down to, I need to do a lot of research on you and where your brain is and how you perform, your style. And over time, because it's a relationship you're building, it's really hard to just be like, doing a one-off thing with somebody and it's like, all right, I'll talk to you next time you want me to work with you, right? It's this relationship that you have with these people in the industry where over time you see the things that they put out and you really see what their eye is like for magic, what they like to see for themselves, and what the ideal version of magic is for them, because I think that's a very subjective answer that we can all give different answers for. So
yeah,
I would almost think that helping someone with an act that you wouldn't do is better, because then there's no fear of crossing paths of similar techniques. Like if someone's working on a dove act that I would never do because I don't do dove work, that's almost, isn't that better, Dennis? Because then it's like you can get in their head and help them do their act, and there's going to be no crossover.
Absolutely. Yeah. If anything, I'm learning too, right? Just because you're a consultant doesn't mean
yeah.
Guy that knows everything. If there's
I was having a jam session with some friends online, and they were trying to work on sponge balls. I don't do sponge balls, but I just happened that weekend to find one on the floor that was from a magician who works for me in this particular venue. I was like, oh, look at that! It's a sponge ball. This must be Jordan's, right? So I threw it in my bag, and the guys were like, I'm trying to work on like different vanishes and stuff, but I don't really know much about sponge balls. I'm like, you know what? Let me go to my bag and grab one. And I used all of my coin techniques and coin ideas, and I'm like holding sponge balls in JW grip and back clipping and doing this type of thing. And I was just like, are you sure you don't do sponge? And I was like, I'm very sure, but does this help? And they're like, that's insane. I would have never thought that. And it's like, so you're totally right, Josh, in saying that, because you're coming from a different angle, it's a really cool perspective.
I wonder if you can get a dove in JW grip. That'd be a great reveal.
That's a cool idea.
But speaking of teaching and giving advice, you just recently did a lecture, right, at the Society of American Magicians?
Yeah, that's correct. That was actually, it was online, and it was back in December. It was really nice that they wanted to have me on for an episode. So yeah, I taught a number of things on there. So
that's awesome. Any takeaways that you feel like you want to share with the Magic guys?
Well, while everyone's watching, I could teach one thing. Do we have time for that?
We would love it. If you're listening to this, you're going to hear a wonderful performance.
Yeah.
Of objects moving around, but I do recommend watching it on YouTube for this portion.
Yeah. Whilst you're preparing that, buddy, just we have a question here from Tim Askin, just asking whether or not you need to sign NDAs for the folks you work for.
100%. It goes both ways too. At least for me, I've been starting to send people NDAs, and I do sign NDAs. I think that's a really, really important thing because it's like
That's really
anyone
important.
like, you have my word, but like let's get it in writing. You know.
Yeah.
You never know.
So what it means is we can't ask Dennis, you know, what magic secrets he's created for people, but we can ask him how much do they pay you? No, I'm kidding.
You know, just off the back of that, before we get into this teaching portion, what I'm curious about is that it seems like you work with more than one person. Let's say I win the lottery on Saturday. I win the Powerball, whatever it is, and I go, finally, some disposable income. I'm definitely going to hire Dennis Kim to help me with this routine that I've been working on for a while.
Right.
What's your capacity to work with people?
The capacity is, well, it's 24 hours a day. There's 7 days in a week, just like anybody else. And honestly, if anyone's watching who also is in the entertainment industry full time, like you would know that when it rains, it pours, right? But it's not going to be raining every single day of your entire life. I'll be honest, there are a lot of weeks where the workload is very light. And then there are some weeks where it's like, geez, man, I'm like not getting enough sleep and this is all I can think about. Like I'm locked in, like there's no breathing room. And that will always happen. I'm sure you guys will relate too with like just all of a sudden more gigs than usual. Like I can't be in 3 places at the same time. And it's the same feeling with like working on stuff for people. Thankfully, I only work with one person where it's like a recurring, regular thing all year round, of course, right? And then everybody else, there's just projects that are like as needed. You know, if you think about it like being like a temp worker, so to speak, if that's an equivalent, where I'm not on call every single day, every single second. You know, I might be on call where they're texting me throughout, you know, random days, and it's like, oh, I got to attend to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was working with like multiple people on a regular basis, I think I'd have to say no to some, you know. But no, that capacity, there are certain moments where I do feel I'm over capacity, and then some moments where it's like I have more breathing room. So that's just how it goes.
Well, I have more questions off the back of that, but I think that whilst we have some time, we are dying to learn a little something. Thank you kindly for sharing. The floor is yours, Dennis.
Oh, sure. Okay. So recently I was in LA and I was jamming with a couple of magician friends, and we're at one of his places, and someone filmed something very candidly, like a little transposition I did. And he was like, "Oh, this is great." I asked him to send me the clip. I'm like, "Dude, this clip is hilarious. Your reactions are funny in the back." And it's a very short clip, and I decided to post it on my Instagram, and it got more views than I would like to see. I'm not a content creator by any means, but there were a lot of questions like, "Will you ever like teach this thing?" Or like, "Who came up with it?" And it's like, "Well, I did." And so I want to take this opportunity to, well, I guess I'll do it for you, and then I'll teach you guys, because I also get tagged in a lot of videos of people doing this transposition, because if you're a magician, it's very easy to figure out how it's done, but there are certain subtleties that I think everybody misses. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over the camera. Can everyone see this? Yes?
Oh,
Yes.
Look how fancy Dennis is. Take note, guests of the future. This is amazing.
OBS action.
Yeah.
Dennis, is this the sandwich effect that I was frothing over in your? Is that what you're doing right now?
No, it's a transposition. It's a transposition using 3. It could really be any. I just wanted to pull out cards that are indifferent. Doesn't matter what it is, right? But we have 2 jokers. They're the same, as well as a queen of clubs. 3 cards. This is completely impromptu. We'll start by separating the different card away from the 2 jokers. Oh, I love this. I'm in a frame. And the idea is to get the 2 jokers to switch places with the queen. So that's 2 cards here and 1 there. If I just give it away like this. Nope. There's the queen. The queen's here, and the 2 jokers are there.
It is.
Try to look at the camera while doing it. But
Jesus.
It is
Yeah.
the routine that I remember posting on this being like, damn, Dennis, I love this. And then you just replied, me too.
Yeah, a lot of people have seen this and asked this question all the time. Like, are you going to teach this, right? So if you're a magician watching, I'm sure you'd surmise how I did this. I'll do a very, very brief overview of all the moves and then go a little more in depth. So you get 3 cards. If you're doing this in person, just use a pair. You know, if you keep jokers in the deck, that's your problem. But like the 2 red kings or whatever, right? But for video, which was my mistake, it should be duplicates, right? Because people watch it a million times and go, oh, that's obvious. So that's 2 jokers and an indifferent card. Queen of clubs in this case. You get 3 cards. You'll have the indifferent card at the bottom. Then you're going to push off and get a double from the bottom. Oh, geez. I'm trying to look here. Like this. So that's 2 cards in reality. Turn the double back over. Place what they think is the indifferent card on the table. I would say about, not halfway, it might fall over. So like 3/4 of the way in and about a third maybe or a quarter off of the table. And it should be a flat surface. If it's like rounded, it makes it difficult. And then you'll do a frustration count with the 2 cards left to show seemingly 2 jokers. And so once you turn this double over, you're going to see that it's the queen. So I keep it off to the side. So if I'm in biddle grip, the top card is going in towards where your hand is. The top card. And so what you're doing while shaking like this, which is doing this, plus your wrist should be a little loose to kind of cover it a little more, is use your pinky, I get this right, to push in as your middle finger and your thumb are also kind of sliding down in unison, which will match as trying to push your pinky in, which will keep it square. So like this, it's square. Now do a Stuart Gordon double lift. Show it, and you're going to regrip where now your hand comes in. It's holding it, it's pinching it like this, where most of my thumb is on the face, as just the tip of my index finger is at the bottom of the double, and the other hand is on the other corner, because if you hold a double like this, you can see it kind of separates a little bit sometimes, right? But you just kind of hold it there, just enough to now you can come over this way. And the reason we hold it like this is because now your index finger can flick, separating that joker from underneath. And you're doing that at the same time as you're turning this over. Okay, that's kind of broken into 2 separate actions. You want to do it at the same time. And it's hard to do it slow, but I'll guide it with my hand like this. It's going to be like, so in real time, it will be that. Ideally, they kind of stay together and glide off, but that's fine as well. So in real time.
That's amazing. That's so cool. You know what? Like, yes, you can try to follow along, but it's that last move that I think fools even like the magicians that think they're following along.
Yes, absolutely. It's like, oh, well, I've done this for magicians. Like, well, I was really excited to see how you're going to clean up from this position. And that was the right way to go, right? So a couple of things. One of the most common mistakes I've seen people do when they like tag me and like, oh, I can do your trick too, is they go, there's 3 cards, so we'll take the queen. I can't even do it right, but they strip one off and then show this as if it's 1 card. If I strip a card off like this, I should have 2 left here. So
yeah, that's right.
Attempt to show that this is 1 is like a huge oversight, and that is like I see that in like 10 out of 10 videos that I'm tagged in of people doing this. I don't know why this seems to be okay, but it's not, which is why I'll push off the top card to get a break. You could do a pinky count, but it gets a little weird with 3 cards. It's not necessary. You just do this while you're just brushing the table, whatever. Get a break, and then just flip the bottom 2 over. Then everything seems fine, right? So I think the key is to think about, like, if you were to actually do this, if magic was real, you actually had powers, what would it actually look like? If I'm taking the bottom card from this 3, this is not possible. This just tips the method. So that's the big thing. Show here. And then just put it down. And this frustration count, you can do it like this. What I like to do, though, is do the frustration, show the first one, strip off that top, and then do like a Stuart Gordon-y kind of thing. So that it's a little less linear. I'm sure it doesn't make that big of a difference, but to just do this, I don't know. I've never been a fan of. I wish I could do something a little more convincing, but I can't really think of any alternative that's better than this. And yeah, before I do this move, I kind of just bow them down so that they're kind of together. If they're a little separate from each other, like height-wise, it might get a little weird. You just want to make sure that once they line up, they're really going to line up here. And even if it's like a little off, I wouldn't panic. That happens sometimes. Just keep going. Hopefully by the time you do the Stuart Gordon, it kind of squares up a little bit. And then just go into the move. I would go slow at this because this is kind of a scary moment. But I would try to go a little slow with it. But practice that move a whole bunch. That's for sure. And yeah, that's about it. That's a very simple transposition to share with you guys, and a couple of the do's and don'ts. But this has been such a fun trick to do. It's not part of my repertoire when I'm like doing walk around gigs and stuff, but it's always nice to be able to know this for like particular groups that just want to see more and more and more. It can lead into sandwich effects and whatever because you got three card money, whatever you want to do. So yeah, that's about it, guys.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, chat is lit. They are absolutely loving it. Thanks for sharing that, man. It's again, yeah, like in the comments you saw, like everyone's loving it. I love it too.
I feel like there's other applications for that end flip that I'm sure you've thought about, but like I could imagine, I'm going to predict 2 cards and sit them on the table, but it's actually one, and you can do a one ahead or one behind kind of thing. Even I don't know.
I could see that. Yeah, absolutely. It was actually inspired from Danny Garcia a long time ago. He came out with this project called 5, I think, with Marcus Eddy. And maybe it was on this one. Maybe it was for.
Oh yeah, right.
But there was a trick called Point 44, which is a 4-for-4 transposition. And the last phase, he does like a paintbrush change, and then that segues to showing that the cards on the table were a completely different 4 of a kind. But he flips them over like that. And I liked that move. It was a very particular move. So I was like, what if you also can load a card in that action? And that's where I had to come up with this transposition. So
yeah, I love that. I miss the old Vegas Strip street magic like videos, like performances.
In 2010s, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So if we could circle back to your consulting realm, I have a question with regards to that. And it is, when you're working with certain magicians, performers, I assume that there is like a couple of entities you got to consider. And what I'm most interested in is like you have consulting and helping with shows and also consulting and helping with routines. And I know that they might sound like they're part and parcel, but what are the major differences between someone going, I have this one routine, help me with this one effect, which is effectively you going, here's method. But when it comes to show, how much more difficult is that?
I think it's a lot more involved. So for the past year and a half, right, I've been working on this show for somebody who's trying to come up with like a new immersive theater show. It's not a magic show, but she wanted magic elements in it, which makes sense. I think magic can be very diverse in being applied to other things, like Harry Potter. There's magic consultants on that for Broadway, right? So I thought that was really interesting, but I've been working with her for like the last year and a half. Month after month after month, we're developing magic. I'm teaching her how to do these things because some sleight of hand is involved, and it gets very involved and it takes a long time. I wouldn't say it's necessarily more difficult, but there's more work to do versus for like a certain routine or something. From my experience, it's been pretty easy in the sense that like not every magician is coming to me with help for routines. It's been only a handful of people, and they are people who need consultants where like they already have a great show, or they're already great performers. They know a lot of material. They just want to get thoughts, right? Or help or whatever, whether it's formal or informal. And so to be able to fix up certain things with like, oh, what do you think about this? And it's like, well, I think this or that, they understand what I'm talking about, I guess. At least from my experience, I haven't never worked formally with someone who's not that experienced, where it's like, what should I do? I only know so much, There's always people who have already been doing this, and whether they have their own show in the city or they've been doing this full time. I think at that point, that's where you get a consultant. Otherwise, if you're a beginner to intermediate or a hobbyist, you can answer all your questions by looking online, But it's very specific help that you need from somebody else. they're already going to know a lot.
Okay. And as far as this specific skill sets that a consultant would have, what would you say your specific skill set is?
Boy, that's a tough question.
That's what I do, bud.
But they're great questions. And I think it's tough because it's like, I hate always like saying from myself what my strong suits are. It's like, I don't know. What if I'm mistaken? What if I suck at this thing and I think I'm great? But well, for one, I think card tricks are definitely a strong suit of mine. If we need to figure out like a method for something, I got it. I'm going to figure it out for you. Otherwise, I think just like structurally for a routine, sometimes certain routines can get a little more complex with a lot of moving pieces. I can't go much more in detail about that. But structuring things, whether it's like scripting or procedure with the audience and the perception of a layperson, I think that's a big strong suit of mine, of like taking into account what an audience member is going to be thinking at every second and what false methods might come to mind that they're mistaken in. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Do we want to lead them down this path, or does it hit too close to home of what the actual method is? Because I think that's a strong suit of mine, because when magicians show me magic tricks, I'm probably one of the best magic spectators that there probably could be. Like, I will be fooled by so many tricks. Like, if you see me at like a convention, like I'm blown away by like all the things, even though maybe I shouldn't have been fooled. And it's because I think what's more conducive is to not like watch like a magician, like you can't fool me. It's like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Why not watch like some person that I have no idea what a magic trick is? I've never seen it before. And just watch like without being so critical about every moment and making sure that I don't have any oversights. Like, I just want to watch. And I'll end up being fooled. And I think that's more conducive, because it's like, well, that you're going to be performing this for lay people. How are they going to react to it? I kind of want to emulate that, you know? So I do get fooled by like almost everything because I'm not watching critically, you know? And I think that's really important, because then now I can take into account lay people who are not so well versed. And sometimes I'm in like jams where they get so deep that it's like, we start to question, like, is that even deceptive? You know, would an audience member even like think like, would this even fool people? You know? And sometimes you get really deep into magic, or you start questioning the things. Again, like I've said before, like you get jaded when you're working on certain things for so long that they start to become these givens, and you start assuming everybody thinks that way. And it's good to have me around to remind you, like, hey man, like, people don't know what a double lift is, you know, for example. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And what advice do you have for folks who are working on things for so many years? I have routines that I've been dusting off purely because I haven't had the forum to perform them. There isn't a lot of opportunities to do parlor style things. And so thankfully, due to the birth of the Theater of Magic, I've been able to dust those routines off and polish them up again, which is a really, really wonderful thing. So I was working on routines and so forth, like in that realm. Now, I guess with regards to the question and time, when you are feeling stuck, or when you have been working on something for so long and you don't quite have it yet, what advice do you have? Do you shelve it? Do you seek help immediately, or all the above?
I think neither of those are the wrong answer. I personally would say, yeah, put it down for a sec or for a while and work on something else, or don't work on something else. You know, sometimes we're just always trying to find ways to stay busy and continue developing our own magic, and we get all magicked out, you know. But we tend to forget, like, over time, how much we do just naturally learn versus like 6 months ago or X amount of time ago. And so when you pick that thing up again, you might all of a sudden have new ideas for it, where it's like, this is how I used to do it. Like, here's an easy fix. Like, this is so obvious. Oftentimes, like, that's how I feel about a lot of my routines, and I'm not performing like every single week, like on a regular basis. So sometimes things do get tabled, and then I pick them back up again, and it's like, huh, that part kind of sucks. I can't believe I've been doing it like that. Here's how to fix it, you know? And sometimes, but you know, rarely, once in a while, like, you might not have that light bulb kind of go off for those routines, and I think that's okay too. I think that's an indication that, like, well, you don't have a big problem here with this routine, and it's been working, and that's okay as well. You don't have to constantly be working on every piece, and you'll never find that perfection where it's like, okay, this is done, period. So keeping that in mind is important too. But yeah, I mean, people ask me for help. Sometimes you ask for a consultant to get another brain in the mix, and they might come up with ideas that you would have never considered, and that's why it's important to have consultants. So neither
100%.
of those. Yeah.
And as we said this beforehand before we went live, and Dennis was worried, like, what should we talk about? I'm like, this is going to go so fast, and it has, because you have so much knowledge within you. If people do want to reach out, they do have that specific project that could use the Dennis touch. How do they get in touch with you for that kind of a thing?
You can find me on Instagram. I think I have all of my contact methods on my page itself, whether it's like going through my website or I think my email is probably on there, or maybe not. I might get too much spam, might have removed it. But yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram and let's just chat. I think that's where you'll definitely find me.
Amazing. And that is Dennis's Instagram and website are in the link in the description of where you're watching or listening to this on Instagram, the Close-Up Artist.
Sure.
Dennis, thank you. Oh, and in the chat. Excellent. We'll put it on the screen here. So, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. We end every episode with giving our guest the final word. It's been 2 years since we last got the final word from you, but and we didn't talk about this backstage. But do you have some final words of wisdom if we set up this that you could drop for our fellow viewers?
For sure, absolutely.
Okay, let me run our stinger. And we want to thank everyone for jumping on and for Dennis's time working on so many projects. And we're cheering on for the FISM announcement. That gives me enough time to watch Dennis's video another maybe 20 times. And we're going to leave you guys with the final word, but Nick and I will see you guys next week.
This is it? All right. I'm sure most of you watching are magicians, whether you're a hobbyist or aspiring professional or already doing this full time. I think magic is just such a beautiful thing. There's always going to be solutions to all the problems. And sometimes we get so deep and caught up in the magic that we forget, that magic and performing magic for other people and sharing it is such a gift. That the reason why we do this in the first place is to make other people happy and wow them, It's something that we've practiced in private. Now we get to showcase it in public. It's a beautiful thing. And if you want to consult as well, there's many joys in that as well, because you get to work on something that ends up being in a production, whether it's through media or in person or virtually or whatever. Just never forget that magic is a gift that you have in your hands. Compartmentalize it. It shouldn't bleed so much into your life, of course, but otherwise when you're performing, just commit to the bit. Like really commit to it. I don't know. I didn't have any magic to perform for you guys in this episode besides this little transposition, but commitment is really important because, I've been doing this entire podcast kind of from a mirror.
Oh, come on.
Maybe I'll show you what it looks like from behind the scene.
Oh, come on.
I didn't have to figure out some stuff just to be on brand.
We can't end the episode like that. Oh my God.
What that means is that the Windex bottle's a proper one. God damn it.
Just the reverse, so.
Are you kidding me? Oh my word.
It's fun. It's fun, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.